These are 10 football players who got caught cheating and faced some of the longest bans in football history for horror tackles, betting scandals, and even drug abuse. But what happened to these players after they got caught? Did the ban end their careers, or did they make it back to the top of world football? And starting with the shortest ban on this list, Luis Suarez faced a 4-month ban from football for getting a bit too hungry on the football pitch and biting Giorgio Chiellini. Luis Suarez was 27 years old at the time and was arguably the best player in the Premier League playing for Liverpool. He had just equaled the Premier League goal-scoring record with 31 in a single season, taking Liverpool oh so close to the Premier League title. But this is not where the situation occurred, because that happened on the biggest stage of them all, the World Cup. Suarez was Uruguay's star man, and if they wanted any hope of going far in the tournament, they needed him on his A game. During the third group stage match, Uruguay faced Italy with only the winner qualifying for the next round. Come the 77th minute, the game was tied up at 0-0, and in a moment of madness, Luis Suarez bit the Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini. Chiellini ran to the referee to show the bite marks, expecting him to send Suarez off, but the referee dismissed this and the game went on. Uruguay scored 4 minutes later and progressed to the next round, but after the match there was a review of the incident where Suarez was found guilty for the bite. Thing is, this wasn't the first or even the second time Suarez had done this, having bitten Ivanovic in 2013 and Bacall in 2010, and it wasn't the first time he had a World Cup controversy either, as just 4 years earlier he caught the ball off the line to prevent a Ghana goal. But this time he faced the worst ban of the lot, as FIFA banned him from all football for 4 months, along with handing him a $100,000 fine. But unlike most players on this list, this ban actually benefited Suarez on the whole, as it meant Barcelona were able to sign him at a slight discount in that summer, and after serving his 4-month ban, he wasted no time at all with Barca as he won the treble in his very first season there, forming part of the deadliest trio in football, MSN. That bite was the last of Suarez's major career controversies, as he seemed to clean up his act at Barcelona as he went on to become one of the greatest strikers in the world during his time in Spain. But not all players get banned for something they did on purpose, like Suarez's bite, because Kolo Touré cheated without even knowing and was banned for 6 months because of it. Touré was one of the Premier League's greatest players, having formed part of Arsenal's invincible squad and being a key player there during their golden years in the 2000s. In 2009, he made the move to Manchester City as they were starting to put a team together that could really challenge at the top level. But it's during this time that his career decline would begin. When he arrived at City, he was named captain, and things were going to continue as usual for him, but entering his second season, a new manager arrived in Roberto Mancini, who took the captaincy off him to give it to Carlos Tevez. During March of the 2010-2011 season, Kolo Touré failed a drug test, but he claimed he had never taken drugs before. So what happened? Kolo Touré had often struggled with his weight, and in an attempt to control it more easily, he took some of his wife's water tablets, thinking nothing of it. But little did he know that these pills contained illegal substances in football, which meant he failed the drug test and was handed a 6-month ban for professional football. Kolo's comments on this were, "I didn't know I'd done anything wrong. When I found out, I was shocked." He served the 6-month ban and returned the following season, but had lost his starting position and was now used as just a squad player. City and Touré won the Premier League that year, but he was not the same integral part of the team as he used to be, prompting him to sign for Liverpool just 2 seasons later, where he, yet again, was played as a squad player until he finally left for Celtic and retired after just 1 season there, meaning the ban from football can be seen as the clear negative turning point in Kolo's career. But whilst Kolo Touré's ban was from a failed drug test, Rio Ferdinand faced an even longer ban just for missing a drug test to go buy bed sheets. Roll the clock back to 2003, and Rio Ferdinand was the most expensive defender of all time, playing for Manchester United, and was one of the best defenders in the Premier League. Until one day he made a mistake that would cost him 8 months of professional football. After a morning training session, 4 Man United football players were selected for a routine drug test, those being Ryan Giggs, Nicky Butt, John O'Shea, and Rio Ferdinand. 3 of the players showed up for the drug test, whilst Rio Ferdinand was nowhere to be found, and instead was out shopping for bedsheets with his mother. Quite simply, he forgot about the drug test, and by the time he realized, the damage had been done. He offered to take a drug test later in the day, but was told it would be too late. 2 days later, he provided a negative test showing that he was clean from drug usage, but this did not matter. This situation blew up in the media, with his teammates and coaches all flooding to his side. Rio continued to play for Manchester United until the court hearing all the way in January, where he was handed an 8-month ban and a fine of £50,000. When Rio was banned, Manchester United were top of the Premier League. By the end of the season, they finished third, 15 points behind first-place Arsenal, with the belief being that this ban cost them the title. Rio had this to say about it all. "I'll never forgive them for the way I was treated. People had done worse and very similar to what I'd done and didn't get treated like that." Ferdinand used this ban as motivation to come back stronger, and after the 8 months were up, he returned and it was like he'd never left, slotting right back into the starting lineup as he went on to have a great career at Manchester United, becoming one of the Premier League's greatest ever defenders. But the next player on this list was caught cheating because of 232 rule breaches, which landed him an 8-month ban from football, and his name is Ivan Toney. Before this happened, Toney was Brentford's best player and one of the best players in the Premier League, having scored 20 goals in the 22-23 Premier League season. But by the end of that season, he was banned. It was found that Ivan Toney had placed over 126 different bets on various football games. Of these bets, 29 of them were placed on games Ivan's team was involved in, 15 were on his team to win, and 13 on his team to lose, although he was not playing in any of the bets to lose. Now, this is strictly against football rules, which is why Ivan faced such a lengthy ban, but he claims he was not aware of this being against the rules.
So you didn't know you couldn't bet as a player?
No. I think it was a grey area. Some, like, you'd hear you can, you hit it, you can't. And then there's certain things you say you can't bet on. Like, with me personally, I feel like it was a grey area.
Toney returned to football on the 20th of January 2024, where he scored in 4 of his first 5 games back, and then going the remainder of the season goalless. Toney was also called up to the England national team for the Euros, playing a big role in England's run to the final, and he has now made the move to the Saudi Pro League after being offered a £400,000 per week contract, which he saw as the last big paycheck at 28 years old, which is a shame that his prime years of football would have been spent banned and then in the Saudi League. And this is similar to Eric Cantona, who faced a 9-month ban whilst he was in the prime of his career for brutally attacking a fan. Why did he do it? It was the 25th of January 1995, and Manchester United were second place in the Premier League as they traveled to Crystal Palace. Eric Cantona received a late red card for kicking a player, but as he was walking off the pitch, he heard a Palace fan hurling abuse at him and he just lost it. He went in for a flying kung fu kick and then threw a few punches before finally leaving the pitch. Manchester United and manager Sir Alex Ferguson stood behind Cantona and supported him, but still suspended him till the end of the season. But the English FA were not happy with just this ban, so they extended it to the end of September, adding up to a 9-month ban from football. Eric had criminal charges brought upon him, which were initially going to be 2 weeks in prison, but were later dropped to just 120 hours of community service. Without Cantona, Manchester United lost the league title to Blackburn Rovers. They won it the 2 seasons before, largely thanks to Cantona, and they won it the 2 seasons after, also with Cantona, as he was a core part of this Man United team until he retired at just 30 years old in 1997. The season after Cantona retired, United lost the title again, proving what an important player he was for them. Eric Cantona says he only had one regret, and that was that he didn't kick him harder. But not every player on this list thinks like that, because I'm sure Sandro Tonali regrets what he did and does not wish he went any harder because he faced a 10-month ban from professional football because his gambling addiction went too far. Sandro Tonali signed for Newcastle on the 3rd of July 2023, but only played 8 Premier League games before being banned from football. He signed for a fee of £55 million from AC Milan, making him the most expensive Italian ever, and it seemed like he was worth the money, being one of the most promising defensive midfielders in world football at just 23 years old. But the issue here was that he was found out to have been betting on his own games whilst playing in Italy, and the Italian FA banned him from football for 10 months for this. This meant he was out for the entire 23-24 season for Newcastle and was out of the Euros for Italy. Along with the ban from football, Sandro was required to attend treatment for his now diagnosed gambling addiction, but despite barely getting started at Newcastle, manager Eddie Howe stood by him saying, "We will throw our arms around Sandro and protect him and try to give him the love and support he needs to find solutions to the problems he's had." Tonali has now made his return to football for the start of the 24-25 season, as he has made a couple of substitute appearances for Newcastle, but with the support of the manager and a long-term vision in place for the player, it looks like he'll recover from this and get back to his best on the football pitch. Whilst the club supported Tonali for his gambling addiction, the same cannot be said for Joey Barton, because he became one of the most hated players in football before getting banned for 13 months. Joey Barton has cheated time and time again and got caught in controversy after controversy. In 2004, playing for Man City, he put out a cigar stub in the eye of a young teammate. In 2006, he assaulted his own teammate Ousmane Dabo, leaving his teammate unconscious and in the hospital, causing him to be forced out of Man City. 2 years later, playing for Newcastle, he was actually sent to prison for assaulting someone and spent a total of 74 days in prison, and there were many more assaults on players in games both physical and verbal. But despite all of this, Barton was like a cockroach, because no matter what happened and how awful he was, he always found a club who would take him and kept playing football until finally karma came his way, because in 2017 he was banned from football for 13 months. Joey Barton was playing for Burnley and was easily one of the most hated players in the country, which meant that the English FA had it out to get him. And after doing some digging into his past, they found that he had been placing bets on football matches over the past 10 years, resulting in an 18-month ban from football. Barton appealed this decision and had it got down to 13 months, but still, that ban effectively ended his career, as Burnley then released him from the club, forcing him to retire from professional football. And it's safe to say he would not be missed, unlike Diego Maradona, who was one of the greatest and most loved players in the entire sport until his 15-month ban. Diego Maradona was at the peak of his power playing for Napoli and was hailed as the best football player in the world and a footballing god in Naples. But heading into the 1990 World Cup, everything changed. This World Cup was being played in Italy, and Diego's Argentina side were able to make it all the way to the final. But it's in the semi-final that Maradona made one fatal mistake when he spoke poorly about Italy as a whole, trying to turn Naples against the rest of the country. This caused the Italian press to go guns blazing on Maradona, and they started to publish articles detailing the secret life Maradona had been living, full of drugs, alcohol, and parties. This was not commonly known at the time, but now it had just become public knowledge. So when he returned to Napoli following the World Cup, he was in trouble. During the season, Diego was called in for a drug test, and to nobody's surprise, the results came back positive, resulting in him getting banned from football for 15 months. This ended his time at Napoli and Italy as a whole, as he left for Argentina to serve his ban out there and never returned to the club he loved so much. After serving the 15-month ban, Maradona returned to football, signing for Sevilla for one season before ending back up in Argentina, playing for Newell's Old Boys, where he remained until the second ban of his career. It was the 1994 World Cup, and Maradona was called up to play his final tournament for Argentina, where it took only 2 games for FIFA to drug test Diego to find out that, yet again, he would test positive for drug use, resulting in yet another ban from football. This proved to be his final game for Argentina and pretty much the end of his top-level playing career, as he returned to football and only played 30 games before finally calling it quits and retiring from the sport, meaning the 15-month ban back in 1991, along with a life of substance abuse, caused an early drop-off from the top of football. But still, Diego was able to leave a legacy in the sport that very few are able to rival, and that Paul Pogba dreamt he could have done, but he won't get the chance to because he's been banned from football for 4 years, basically ending his footballing career. Paul Pogba started his career at Man United before signing for Juventus, where he became one of the best midfielders on the planet. And still at a young age, it looked like he was going to dominate football for years to come. He returned to Man United for a record 105 million euros and spent 5 years there, which was rocky to say the least. As much as there were ups, there were also downs. But in that time, he still won a World Cup, a Europa League, and a couple domestic cups. But it's once he left the club that he got caught cheating and was banned from football. Pogba re-signed for Juventus, hoping to get his career back on track, but after a Serie A match, he was called in for a random doping test, which he failed, as it had shown he was taking illegal substances, resulting in the 4-year ban. Just like Kolo Touré, Pogba claims he had not deliberately taken these drugs, as he had taken medication, which he didn't know contained the substances, but he still tested positive, meaning he had an unfair advantage, even if it was unknowingly. He'll be allowed to return to football in August 2027 when he'll be 35 years old and well past his prime, meaning this ban pretty much ended his career. But even though a 4-year ban is long, it's not the longest ban on this list, because that goes to the Spanish and ex-Real Madrid legend Juanito, who was banned for 5 years for the most brutal tackle in football history. On the 8th of April 1987, Bayern Munich faced off against Real Madrid in the semi-final of the European Cup, and this is where the controversy would occur, but it wouldn't be Juanito's first controversy or ban, because 9 years earlier he assaulted a referee, resulting in a 2-year ban. He had then gone on to become a Real Madrid legend, lifting 5 La Ligas, 2 Copa del Reys, and 2 UEFA Cups in almost 300 appearances for the club, but this game against Bayern Munich would end his Real Madrid career. Bayern Munich were leading the game when German legend Lothar Matthäus threw himself to the floor with an exaggerated fall, and Juanito just lost it. He stamped Matthäus on the chest and then on the jaw with 2 of the most brutal stomps in football history. He was fined £5,000 by Real Madrid, which was a club maximum at the time, along with being banned from European competitions for 5 years, signaling the end of his Real Madrid career. Juanito didn't live for long after this, as at just 37 years old, he died in a car crash. And despite a sour ending to his Real Madrid career, the fans still cherish him as a club legend, singing his name in the 7th minute of every single home game, as he will never be forgotten in the Bernabeu. If you enjoyed the video, check out the one on screen now and subscribe.